Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV. I guess it's the pre-national championship game edition, if you will. Our program presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Tonight, my new favorite, Diet Pepsi Wild Cherry. Love that sound. And then I love that taste going down. Kind of tickles your tongue. And on Tuesdays, I need a little tongue tickling because there are long days for me, Rodney. But as I said, this is the National Championship Game Preview edition of TITV. Alabama football playing for its 16th national championship this coming Monday night at University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Before we get to that, though, let's take a look back at 2015. New Year's Eve at the Cotton Bowl at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Rodney, it was complete domination by the Crimson Tide. 38-0 over the Big Ten champion Michigan State Spartans in the college football semifinal playoff game at the Cotton Bowl. And, you know, this was a close game. 6 minutes to go in the second quarter, 6.5 minutes, no score. Bama wound up leading 10-0 at the half. Cyrus Jones, a big pick that we'll see here in a moment right before halftime to keep Michigan State off the board. But in the second half, the Tide just ran roughshod over the Spartans.
Yeah, we said last week we both thought points would be difficult to come by, and they were. Like you mentioned, with 6 minutes left in the half, it was a 0-0 game. The two key spots in the game, Gary, to me, were right before half when Cyrus Jones makes the interception that prevents Michigan State from cutting into that 10-0 lead. And then in the second half, the opening drive, Alabama takes it 79 yards, adds on another touchdown. It's 17-0. And I think from there on, it was just a matter of time before Michigan State folded. I think that took a lot of the wind out of their sails.
Derrick Henry, by his standards, an off game, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, but they were geared to stop him. Jake Coker took advantage, 286 through the air, 2 touchdowns, both to Calvin Ridley. That's one of them. He was in bounds after they looked at it on the replay. No picks, and Coker and Ridley are becoming a dynamic duo. Or have become a dynamic duo,
I should say. Michigan State, you could clearly see what their goal was, to take Derrick Henry out of the game and say, if Jake Coker can beat us throwing the football, then, you know, more power to him. And guess what? He stood up and made the throws. Gary was fantastic throwing the ball down the field to Ridley. And you saw some of the catches that Ridley made. And not only that, they spread the ball around really well. O.J. Howard got involved. Ardarius Stewart made some big catches as well. So Richard Mullaney. So, again, I thought the offense, without Derrick Henry, in terms of being the focal point, showed that they can produce in other ways. And I think that's really key.
And defensively, you know, Mark D'Antonio said he thought the Spartans would be able to run the ball with their 4 tailback system. Nothing on the ground. And then Connor Cook, with no ground game, was made to look pedestrian. I mean, Alabama's defense just ate him alive.
Yeah, and he was under a lot of duress. Gary made some throws again in the first half. They did mount some, a couple of drives with him throwing the ball, but it was all on his back. And, you know, he certainly was under a lot of pressure, made it very difficult for him. Yeah, there's the stiff arm. Reminds me of the stiff arm that Julio Jones put on the Michigan State defender a few years ago in that bowl game. But, you know, again, Derrick Henry slowed down early. Ended up with, 75 yards, 78 yards. But, you know, overall, good night. Indeed.
Complete domination by the Crimson Tide. Coach Saban talked about the difference between last year's Sugar Bowl and this year's Cotton Bowl performance following the game. Plus, Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney spoke today about growing up a Crimson Tide fan. That's all right here in our Med Center Coach Speak right now.
I think last year when we came to this game, we were happy just to take part in the game. I think this year we wanted to, you know, sort of take the game, and really thought our guys had a vision of what they wanted, and everybody paid the price for what they had to do in preparation. And there was no circumstance in that game out there today that changed anybody's feeling about how they wanted to compete and how they wanted to play.
I was brainwashed. I mean, are you kidding? That's just the way it is in Alabama. When you come out of the hospital, they got to stamp your birth certificate. You're either Alabama or Auburn, or you don't leave. You got to choose. I mean, any of y'all that have been around that state, that's just the way it is. And my dad, there's never been a bigger Alabama fan.
Well, there you go. Now, though, Ronnie, Dabo Swinney is on the other side looking down, staring down the barrel of that powerful Crimson Tide, if you will. But Clemson's got a good football team. He's built this like an SEC team. It's taken time, but he's built it from the inside out, meaning the line of scrimmage out to the perimeter. They're good on both the offensive and defensive line. I think that gets a little overlooked with their skill players. But talk about this matchup. Let's start our analysis of the upcoming game on Monday.
Well, first of all, when you look, I think you made a really good point about how they are physically up front, Gary. If you watch the Oklahoma game in the second half, they took the line of scrimmage completely over on both sides of the ball and dominated, and it was fairly evident, you know, from the very first possession when they drove down and scored on the opening possession of the second half. And that's really what's impressive about them. But their big play quarterback, I mean, this guy's fantastic. Deshaun Watson, you know, Gary's thrown for 699 yards, 36.99 is what he's got. 31 touchdowns. He's rushed for 1,032, 12 scores. He's a legitimate dual threat guy, maybe the best in the country, one of the best in the last several years. And not only that, but the running back that they've got, Wayne Gallman, fantastic. 2 1,000-yard rushers in Deshaun Watson, and Gallman's got 1,482 yards. So 1-2 punch, and then they throw the ball. Artavius Scott's an outstanding receiver for them. He's got nearly 90 receptions on the year. They've got almost 10 receivers, Gary, who have 20 receptions or more. So they spread the ball around. This is an offense that's going to really challenge Alabama, spreading the ball out, moving it around to different parts of the field. So we're going to see, can Alabama handle what a lot of people say is their kryptonite, a quarterback like Deshaun Watson.
And Gallman played for Mickey Kahn, former Crimson Tider there.
Yeah,
high school teammate of Robert Condici and Grayson Georgia.
Right.
Alabama took a look at him. A lot of schools did. A lot of schools wanted him as a linebacker, Rodney. So you know he's physical. And you're right. You got to slow down Watson, but Gallman killed Oklahoma.
Yeah, he did. He had 150 yards. Again, in the second half, you know, really, Deshaun Watson had run it for over 100 yards in the first half, and Gallman took over in the second half and was just, you know, virtually unstoppable. Now, Oklahoma had some key players out defensively, but this Clemson team, they average over 500 yards a game, 512 offensively. You know, they're versatile. They run it for 224. They throw it for 283. You know, defensively, they only give up 301 yards a game on that side of the ball, and that's been the key. You know, they've always been pretty strong offensively, but Brent Venables, their defensive coordinator, last couple of years has really made them into a defensive juggernaut.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go. Defensively, they got great cover corners, a lot of speed. Up front, they're big and athletic. Now, Shaq Lawson is slowed with a knee, although he is expected to play. But that's when they took the next step. They got Venables in there as the defensive coordinator, and I think Dabo Swinney is good at knowing what he doesn't know. He knew he needed help on defense, and they've gotten really salty on that side of the ball.
Well, and they've got some other guys. You mentioned Shaq Lawson. He's outstanding, Gary. He's got 23 tackles for losses. He's got, 14 sacks, whatever it is. But they've got other guys that are really quick, really versatile up front. They've got some power guys inside, so they're really good up front. We talk about Alabama's pass rush. They've got 43 sacks on the year, so they get after the quarterback too.
Ought to be a good one. Our predictions on the game coming up later on in the program. And plenty more still to come on Tider Insider Television. We talked to Lane Kiffin after the game on Thursday, but the toughest questions came from his kids. You'll want to stick around for this. And coming up later, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You can reach us at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us, TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can tweet at us as well. We'll get to that and much more on the only program that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. We'll return right after this. The Bama men's basketball team is 9-3, winning 7 of its last 8. Took down Norfolk State on Saturday at Coleman, 68-49. Now it's time for SEC play. Tide will finally crank it up on Thursday night in Oxford against Ole Miss in that brand new Ole Miss arena. Saturday, Bama hosts Kentucky. Well, we don't get to hear from the Alabama assistant coaches very often. In fact, hardly at all. But postseason games are an opportunity to speak with members of Nick Saban's staff. And after the Cotton Bowl, Tider Insider TV's Jen Chapman and Rodney caught up with offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin and turned the microphone over to his kids. This is fun.
All right, we've got our post-game interview, and it's going to be conducted by your kids. Are you ready for this? All right, who wants to ask the question first? Here we go.
How old are you?
30.
Nope, you're 40.
All right, one question down. Question number 2, you ready?
What's your favorite color?
What?
What's your favorite color?
Favorite color is blue.
Ooh.
Wait, I can't say that. Red. I forgot. We're at Alabama. Red.
Final question. What's your question going to be for Dad? You can ask him anything you want.
Dude, who's your favorite player? It's going to be a really hard decision. Who's your favorite coach?
My favorite coach?
Of course.
Coach Saban.
Is that a good answer?
Can I do one more really quick? Yeah.
Who's your favorite coach?
Lane Kiffin.
That's awesome. Lane, how good does it feel to see your offense put together a complete game tonight on probably the biggest stage of the season so far?
Yeah, well, it's not my offense, it's our offense. We got great assistant coaches and great players. They made a bunch of plays today and executed a plan and did a great job.
How fun has this season been for you?
It's been really fun, totally different than last year, but to see the guys, just really good stories again this year like last year. Jake in his last year being able to start and working together, Derek's Heisman, and then a true freshman like Calvin. It's been exciting.
Now the players always talk about how fun you are as a coach, and even this week they were telling us the coach most likely to dance would be you. If you guys win the national championship, will we get to see you dance?
I will do that, yes.
Oh, we will hold you to that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jen. Those kids are adorable. Well, coming up on Tider Insider TV, we'll check in on the Alabama women's basketball team. They're playing well. Plus your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there's the information on the screen on how you can get in touch with us. So go ahead and give us a call because we definitely want to hear from you. What do you think about this national championship game? Tider Insider TV will continue right after this timeout. The UA women's basketball team is 1-0 in SEC play, and that's noteworthy. They hadn't won their opener since 2008 until Sunday. They beat LSU 62-45 at Foster Auditorium. Bama got 17 points from Mia Knight in the win. They'll head to Kentucky on Thursday night. Well, Rodney, let's get right to our phone calls and emails. First up with us tonight is Bama Jack in Northport. What's up, Bama Jack?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, Happy New Year. My question is, they publicized that the team is going to be landing at 12 p.m., returning from Dallas, and they actually landed at 11. Do y'all think this could have been somewhat planned that way to hold down on the premature celebration because we're not finished yet?
Bama Jack, it's an interesting theory. I doubt it very seriously. I imagine they probably just got everything done that morning and were able to get in the plane and get in the air earlier than planned. But now that you've mentioned it, because I know a lot of folks wanted to meet them out there at the airport, maybe so. Maybe they said, hey, we want to beat the crowd and because we want to keep focusing on the next game. I doubt it, but,
Is Jack still there?
Yeah.
Jack, did you go?
No, Jack's
he's
gone.
not gone.
I know they didn't want to celebrate too much after that game. So,
well, you see all the confetti coming down and all the celebration, and certainly it's a great win, but you kind of wonder. I was thinking about that earlier today. Why in such a celebration you still have another game? And it's not the schools. It's the way it's designed.
Yeah.
So.
But they're focused on this next one. We know that. Rodney, let's get an email in. And this one comes to us from Todd in Northport. We've already talked about Deshaun Watson, but good question. Is this the best quarterback Alabama will have played this season? Your opinion?
Probably the best dual threat quarterback. Certainly, I would have to say that, Gary. He's outstanding. Like I said, he's put up 4,731 yards and accounted for 43 touchdowns. He's led them to a 14-0 record. What was he, third in the Heisman balloting? So, it's hard to argue about the numbers now. Again, listen, I'm not knocking Clemson's schedule. They played, I think, 6 teams with losing records and probably didn't quite play the competition maybe that some of the other teams, Alabama or the SEC. But, you can't take anything away from this guy. He's an outstanding talent, and he proved it against Oklahoma again. So, I think Chad Kelly was an outstanding player when Alabama played Ole Miss. I thought, obviously we know what Dak Prescott is, but this guy brings a lot of athleticism and elusiveness in his ability to run, escapability, and then the throw. He completes 68% of his passes. Just a phenomenal player, and only a sophomore.
Yeah, he's smooth. That's the word I think about with Deshaun Watson. You mentioned Chad Kelly. He's a former Clemson quarterback, too.
Yeah.
How
do you like Dabo's evaluations of quarterbacks?
Well, coming up next on Tider Insider TV, Nick Saban starting a new dance craze, and the $1 Million Band impersonated the coach's moves. We'll show you. And more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets as you look at Nick Saban breaking it down there. So go ahead and give us a call, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Phone lines are open. More TITV. I call that the T-Rex, I think. Heck, I don't know. We'll be back with more right after this. You stick around. Now, before the Cotton Bowl, Bama player said Nick Saban would never, ever dance under any circumstances. We know he used to be a dancer back in the day. He talks about it all the time. And he showed some moves off at AT&T Stadium. I guess that's a T-Rex. Crimson Tide Marching Band also decided to impersonate the coach's moves at the basketball game. It's catching on. The newest dance craze. When Saban does something, people will follow. No doubt about that. More of your phone calls right now. Let's go to Anniston and talk with our good friend Harold. Harold, how are you, my man? Harold, you with us? Did we lose Harold? Harold, you there? Well, he wanted to know more about Deshaun Watson and trying to stop a dual threat quarterback. Rodney, I think this gets overplayed a little bit. Certainly those guys have had some success against Alabama, but there's a lot of time Alabama has stoned those guys and won big. Nobody ever talks about that. They talk about the occasions that dual threat quarterbacks have success. Yes, I think Alabama can stop Deshaun Watson. I also think Deshaun Watson can have success against Alabama. It's what happens when a great defense plays a great quarterback.
Yeah, and I think Alabama, too, Gary, is kind of recruited differently since the styles have really changed. And, you know, when you look at the athleticism that Alabama's defensive front has now, I think there's no question that, you know, they certainly can have some success. Now, you know, again, when you're talking about a guy like Deshaun Watson, he's a guy that you cannot completely stop a guy like him, just like you can't completely stop a Johnny Manziel type. So, you know, he's going to have some success, as you said, but, yeah, I think Alabama can slow him down. And the key is that when they do move the ball, Gary, when that field starts to shorten, they've got to make sure, you know, they've got to try to force Clemson into field goals. Oklahoma did that a few times in that championship game, and that's what Alabama needs to do. That's
Oklahoma did in the first half and had the lead at halftime.
Yeah.
And avoid explosive plays. That's make Clemson earn it. 6, 8, 10 yards at a time, not 75.
And I'll tell you another thing. I think this is really key because he's been injured a little bit. I think if Alabama really hits him and bangs him up, I think they need to hit him early.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be real physical with him early on.
Yeah, when a guy's going to run, you got to put a lick on him. All right, Harold, sorry we lost you there. Let's go to our buddy Plato in Panorama. Plato.
Hey, guys. Staying with the same theme, do you, speculation-wise between you guys, do you think we will try to use somewhat of the same defensive scheme that they used against Tim Tebow to kind of keep him in the pocket, or do you think with our improved pass rushers we'll come right at him and try to flush him out of the pocket and make him do something he doesn't want to do?
Yeah, Plato, I think you really want to try to make him stay in there. You know, you don't want him breaking containment because he's really dangerous when he does that. When he gets outside, he has the ability to make things happen on the run, whether it's he keeps the ball. Gary, he's really good at dumping it off to somebody, finding his outlet receivers, or throwing it down the field. He'll throw it over your head on the run. So, you know, he's a guy that I think you want to try to contain him, get him, you know, keep him locked up, so to speak, and then when you got a chance to get him on the ground, get him on the ground.
And he's really good with design runs. He's a long strider.
Yeah.
So he takes 3 or 4 strides and he's got 6 yards. I mean, he's a dangerous guy. But as Rodney said, this Alabama defense is equipped to stop these type of quarterbacks. We'll find out. Well, coming up, Rodney and I will make our final football prediction of the season. You'll want to stick around. Do we like the Tide? Or maybe we're going to go with the upset with the Tigers. Have to stay tuned to find out. Rodney's been biting at the bit to pick an upset all year. Stay with us. Beautiful night, Tuscaloosa. All right, Tider Insider TV continues our final segment. You'll notice again that Rodney and I are wearing dress shirts from the Locker Room, home of the original elephant wear at their new location in downtown Tuscaloosa. Alex and Rush and the courteous staff will make you feel special the minute you walk in the door. But if you're busy or you don't live in Tuscaloosa and you still want all of the great Locker Room apparel, you can shop online at their website, locker-room.biz. The Locker Room, a Tuscaloosa clothing tradition since 1964. And yes, they have ladies wear as well. All right, Rodney, it's time for our final picks of the 2015 season. And when you're picking 2015 games in 2016, that's good. It means you're in the national championship, Alabama versus Clemson.
Well, I mean, when you look at this matchup, I mean, what a matchup. You're talking about Alabama versus Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, a team that, Dabo's done a great job, obviously, building, the former Alabama player. A lot of ties to Alabama between and Clemson, the two programs, and through the years. But, when you look at this game, I think, it's really such a contrast in styles. Can Alabama slow down Deshaun Watson? can Clemson stop Derrick Henry? I think when you start looking at all the things in this game, the aspects of this game, I think the one thing that really sticks out to me is this Alabama team has had their backs to the wall since the Ole Miss game, and every single week they've come out and done what they've had to do. And when you look at this game, Gary, I think they still want to make amends for some things that happened in the past, the last 2 years. I just think it's too focused of an Alabama football team. I think in the end, in the fourth quarter, Alabama wins a game 31-23.
Good pick. You know, you have to love Dabo Swinney. I mean, he's an Alabama guy to the core, walk-on receiver, assistant coach. What a job he's done. Out of football for 2 years. Tommy Bowden hired him at Clemson midway through the 2008 season. Bowden is out. He's in as the interim coach. He took advantage of his opportunity. Now he's got one of the best programs in the country. 14-0. They have been outstanding. He's going to have more opportunities. He knows how to recruit. They're not ready yet. Not for this test against this Crimson Tide team. As Rodney said, this team wants to make amends for the last 2 years. They feel like they should have won the national championship in 2013 and 2014. They think they should be working on 5 in a row. Didn't happen. They're going to get this one against a good Clemson team. I like Alabama by a couple of touchdowns, 30-17. I think it's going to be a very competitive football game, but I think the Tide will pull away, salt it away in the fourth quarter. Maybe Derrick Henry busts one of those long runs that he has become known for this season, and Bama gets national championship 16.
Hope so.
Going to be a lot of fun. We'll be back next week to talk about it. I'll be in Arizona next Tuesday. Rodney will be here in the studio. We'll recap the game for you then. That's going to do it for this program tonight. If you missed any of the show, a reminder, you can catch the replay tonight at 10:30 after the news at 10, and you can find it anytime online at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. It's off to the national championship game in Arizona.